After my 20-something years of playing video games, I've come across a ton of annoying and infuriating game mechanics that just make me want to throw my controller through the drywall. However, I think I found the mechanic that is the most infuriating and frustrating thing of all time: bloom. Now, I'm not talking about blooming in your graphics settings that change how the light sort of visually displays in your screen in some instances of gameplay. No. I'm talking about bloom and random bullet deviation in gameplay of first-person shooters. The first time I ever remember coming across this mechanic was in Halo Reach. Now, I'm sure I've played with it before, but this is the first time I remember it distinctly. Halo Reach, which for me at least was my least favorite of the Bungie Halos, had a new weapon called the DMR. For some reason, Bungie went, nope, the battle rifle this time around, terrible, here's this bastard of a weapon instead. The DMR had perfect first shot accuracy, but every time you fired it, you can see your reticle getting larger. The reticle basically showed where your shots could go anytime you fired it, and the more you fired it, the more random the bullets got. Only way to correct this was to fire it, wait a second, and then fire it again, and I hated it. I hated this mechanic. The reason this gets brought up again for me is the bullet deviation in Battlefield 2042 on release, especially on the ARs. You could put your sight directly on an enemy and fire, but who knows if that bullet would even ever actually hit the target? And that is basically what bloom is. So let's say you're using a red dot sight. That first shot will hit the red dot, but the longer you hold down that trigger, the deviation from that red dot sight gets larger and larger. Basically, the longer you shoot without a break, the larger the spread is on your shots. This encourages controlled burst and discourages automatic fire. Now, if I was building a first-person shooter from the ground up, if I had that sort of technical skill and knowledge, then I would want gunplay to reward skill. That seems pretty common sense that, all other things being equal, the better player should win a majority of gunfights against someone who is worse than them. Bloom, at least in my opinion, is mainly used to ensure that the better player does not always win. It almost acts as a cap on the skill ceiling of a game, because if gun skill were based solely on recoil control, then someone could theoretically learn how to perfectly control that recoil and turn the gun into a laser. Bloom prevents this perfection by introducing uncontrollable variables into the shooting patterns of a gun. Now, bloom is used differently in each game. In Counter-Strike, bloom is a mechanic, but it is a controllable one. There's a set number of values applied every time you take a shot in Counter-Strike that determines the recoil pattern of the gun. Things like movement and stance can affect bullet spread, however. Players can learn the recoil pattern of a weapon because it never leaves a certain triangle, as you can see here. So no matter how long you shoot, it never leaves this area, and it follows a pattern, making the recoil and the bullet spread controllable. Now, that's fine with me. CS is a game I usually point to the most when I talk about how games should handle their weapon physics. Introduce recoil patterns into a game, not bloom. Make the patterns 90% learnable with 10% horizontal randomization. Bloom and random bullet deviation just do not make for a rewarding experience. Instead, it usually just ends with people feeling cheated out of winning gunfights. I'm so glad that Battlefield 2042 very quickly corrected their mistake. They've already lessened the bloom on some of the ARs, and they actually hit the targets that you're pointing at. So those are just my thoughts on bloom and random bullet deviation in first-person shooters. It's just not something I'm a fan of. Let recoil control and skill rule the day. Drop all the extra garbage, please and thank you. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate your all support. Please take a second and give the video a like and maybe even a sub if you want some more FPS content. I've also got a second channel where I upload clips, shorts, and basically just anything that doesn't belong in this main channel, so please go check that out. You'll also definitely want to come check out my community's Discord and my merch link down in the description as well. All right, everyone, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.